Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder, and CEO of Versa Business Systems, Shaheen Mazloum. We're actually here with an awesome guest today, man. My new friend, Bennett Maxwell, dude, serial entrepreneur, had a couple killer exits, which is obviously the key at the end of the day. Nobody wants to work themselves to death. Dude, how you doing today, Bennett?
Super good, man. I like that intro, dude. That music. I'm hyped now. I'm ready.
I appreciate it, bro. So, dude, so tell us about like how did you be? I know you were in sales originally, right? And then, like, how did you transfer from like sales into starting a business?
The sales jobs that I chose were door-to-door commission only. So it's like
Perfect.
you're kind of already in your own little business, right? If I don't
Yeah,
sell today, if
yeah.
I don't
Same thing
train
I did.
myself, I'm not gonna make money. And then it extended to, okay, well, do you want to be a manager? Anybody could be a manager. You don't
Right,
earn it. I mean, you earn it in the sense of you go recruit people and convince
right.
them that they will accept you as their manager, and then boom.
Yeah,
And then if you train them properly and they get sales, then you will make overrides. So I did
yeah.
that for a few years. And then it was my brother, and he's like, hey, why are you knocking doors? Why don't you go online? I'm like, because I
Right,
don't know how, you know? And he's like,
right.
well, I do. Let's kind of team up. So that's kind of how I was lucky enough to already be in the world, and then teaming up with someone, my brother, 13 years older than me, that really kind of guided me through okay, this is actually how to tackle all aspects of the business. And it was a lot more than what I initially thought. I'm like, oh, I
Right.
know how to
Oh,
sell solar.
it
I could do a
always
solar
is.
company.
Yeah. Oh, it always is. It always is way more. You're like, man, I can sell anything. Like, I mean, let's just start a solar company, right?
Yep.
Now, did you sell solar before you started the solar company or no?
Yeah. Yeah. I did
Uh,
about a handful of months with another company in Sacramento, moved out there. And I was like, man, where I'm working
yeah.
4 to 8 p.m., 4 a.m. or sorry, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m., 5 days a week. So maybe 20
Yeah.
hours. And it's like, well, if you make 10 grand a sell, you only need one or
Exactly.
two of those
What
a
are they
week
making?
and you're fine.
Yeah.
So, no, it was a really good business. And then it was just, how do you scale? And
Yeah.
luckily we started the online stuff. I'm telling you,
So what
we
year is
started
this
January
then?
of 2020, January of
So this is
2020,
22.
3 months
You
before COVID hit.
started,
Yeah.
you started the company January of 2020.
That's when the solar company started. The
Bro,
cookie
I started a
company.
medical supply company January of 2020. That makes
Okay.
sense.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
That makes sense that I made money in that. You started a solar company January of 2020
Started a solar company, and then
and you made it work.
the cookie company that I ended up buying a few months after that. Its grand opening for the single location that I purchased was was the Friday of the government shutdowns. Sorry,
What?
the government shutdowns are on a Wednesday, and the grand opening was scheduled for a Friday. So we never, even to this day, we've never had the grand opening because it got canceled. But yeah,
So okay,
COVID
so
threw
rewind a
everything
second.
for a loop.
So you start the solar company January of 2020. Nobody knows what the hell's going to happen next, right? Like everybody's
Yeah.
freaking out. I mean, we were starting to hear about COVID and coronavirus and all that in January.
Yep.
And so then how like what 3-4 months later is when you made enough money to be able to buy another business?
Yeah. So, well, this other business, I was just an investor. The guy said, I'm selling cookies out of my apartment. I want money to open up a storefront. So I
Now
gave
was
him
this a
money.
friend?
Yeah, as a guy that I went to high school with. So he was in
Okay, cool.
Arizona. We both grew up in Utah. I was in San Diego running that solar company out there.
Right.
Um, so he opened it, but I never really spoke with him other than giving him some money, every handful of months. And then at the end of that year, I'm like, hey, dude, let's franchise it. I'll be your first franchisee. I'm in California. Then I'll help you expand and franchise, and sell it to others. And he's like, no, I'm done. I just want out. And I'm like, shit, there goes my investment. Like, that was the first thing. I was like, crap, if he
Right.
wants out, that means that my money is gone. So yeah, honestly, within a month of having that conversation, I ended up buying it. And that was in December. So December of 2020. Took me
Uh-huh.
about a year to franchise it, kind of recruit the team. We launched in December of 21. And then, yeah, by December 23, we had 400 something sold. And I think we've opened,
400
yeah, so it's maybe,
locations?
yeah, so like 150 to 200 franchisees that'll buy, 1 to 3, sometimes 5 locations at a time. And then you give them a few years to develop it.
Wow. Dude, so how did you learn about franchising then?
Just figuring it out, dude. I went to my first franchise conference. There's the franchisee and the franchisor.
Okay, so
The
time
franchise,
out real quick. So you found this opportunity, right? So buddy you went to high school with, you're starting to make some money in the solar business, I assume, right? So you're like,
Yep.
I got some money. This guy wants an investor. Hey, he's a friend of mine. I trust him. Let's see what he can do. And then he's like, you know what? I'm tired of fucking making cookies. And Bennett, you're like, man, this is a decent business. Like, I don't want to lose my investment. Okay, I'll go ahead and buy it from him. And then you're like, well, I'm not interested in making cookies either. And it's a good business. We should franchise this. But hey, I don't know anything about franchising. So you go to a franchise conference. Is that accurate?
Yeah, I mean, much before that, it was just talking to any and everybody. I mean, being
I
a
love that.
door-to-door sales guy,
Yeah.
one of the first people was actually in San Diego. I hit up the guy. There's a concept called Everbowl. They're at like maybe 150 plus locations, acai concept. Hit up Jeff
Okay.
Fenster, and I'm like, hey, dude, I just bought this company. I'm going to franchise it. And he met up with me and he sat down with me for an hour and he told me that everything.
How did you reach out to him?
Instagram. Just
No way.
on Instagram.
I
I'm like, hey,
love
we have a
that.
mutual friend, this or that, right? And he was gracious enough to sit down with me and tell me that my entire business plan was shit. Because I was going to sell you 5 stores at a time, and I was going to make you make all your cookies in the first store, then handle the logistics to ship them to the other 4 stores, so that way you don't have to, have all the equipment. And he's like, no, you just do 1 location, maybe 2 in the nation, and then you ship them their cookies. So they just put it in the oven, press start, right? And that's the concept that we've built. It's like, you can't operate out of 500-600 square feet, 1 employee, 1 oven. I'll ship you the cookie, just put it in the oven. Everything is the same time, temperature, and fan speed. So someone with no experience with food or franchising or cookies, it was all about just make it as simple as possible. Because if I can make it as easy enough for me to do it, then hopefully that opens the door for a lot of other people to do it as well.
Right, you're a sales guy. You're not a baker.
I've still never mixed a batch of cookies to this day.
I love that. You've never made cookies in your life.
I mean, at home, but not dirty cookies, right? I make the cake mix cookies.
Right. I love that. So, you obviously saw a need, you saw a viable business, and then you just figured it out. So as you're obviously you reached out, you had the balls to reach out to some random person on Instagram that knew what he was doing. You're like, hey man, like, you mind taking a look at what I'm trying to do here and help me? Most people will, right? I think, for the most part, people want to help other people. Right. Like, I think, that's primarily, there's crappy people out there, but like for the most part, most people, if you ask them for help, they will help you. Do you agree with that?
1,000%. I took some startup course. So now I sell the solar company, and my buddy's like, come back out to Utah. We're going to do this startup course. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I just sold my first business,
Right.
I'm feeling all hot. And he's like, no, like, this guy's legit. He's going to teach you a whole separate type of business. And it was. His first company was InfoSpace, $30 billion company. It was
his first company.
Wait, what I did? InfoSpace. Yeah. It's Yellow Pages Online. He took Yellow Pages Online. This company's out of Seattle. Yeah, in like 2001 or whatever.
Right.
$31 billion IPO. And you're like, okay, cool. And then he invested in Omniture, first money in an advisor. They sold to Adobe for $2.2 billion. And then Pura, which is $1 billion. So I'm like, okay, this guy knows his stuff. Scalable business.
Right.
And he taught me how to build an advisory board. Like, you can get these top tier people and offer them 0.5% to maybe 1.5% of equity of a company that's worth nothing, right? It's a single store.
Right.
And it's over a 2-year vesting period. So that way you're protected if the advisor doesn't work out. So I'm like, okay, who better to get on my advisory board than the guy teaching me? So I get John Richards as my senior advisor, give him 1.5% in equity. Now, he doesn't know franchising either, but he knows business. And he knows networking. So I'm like, hey, John, now what do we do? He goes, now you need an advisor with franchising. I got the guy for you, Steve Hart. He owns the largest property management franchisor in the world. Calls up Steve. Steve's my second advisor. I'm trying to get my third advisor.
So he knew Steve.
Yeah, he sat on Steve's board during their growth.
This is insane.
So he gets my second advisor. I'm hitting up everybody and their dog for referrals. So I'm talking to my employees, hey, who do you know that could be an advisor, right?
Right.
Oh, I used to work for Mrs. Fields and this person, and she was the founder of Maui Wowie, and she grew her company to 600 plus locations before selling it. She'd be perfect. So I call up Jill Summer Hayes, and Jill's like, yes, I would be an advisor, but if you're really think you're going to grow at the pace you're going to grow at, you need me as CEO. And I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take it. So I brought her on as CEO like
What?
literally month one in franchising, and now I have a 40-year vet, right? That's been doing this,
Right.
that's grown a food brand in this space to 650 plus locations.
That's
Now I have some substance to
crazy,
sell off
dude.
of, right? Nobody's going to buy a franchise off of me, but maybe off of these other guys that have been there as long as they know
Right.
that
An
I'm
all-star
taking their counsel.
team.
Yeah.
Dude, this might be one of the craziest stories I've heard. Um, honestly, like I mean really like it's impressive, man. So 18 months you sell the
Solar.
solar company. How long did it take you to go from just the one cookie company to you said how many stores did you grow it to?
We've opened up just south of 100, and then with
Okay.
some brick, and then we do like mobile trailers as well, like food trucks. So we've done over
Right.
100 locations. The first one opened in June of 2022. The
Wow.
first
So
franchise did.
just over a couple of years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it was pretty quick. Yeah, about
And
two,
and
two and a
and
half years.
you haven't ended up exiting that company for
Yeah,
can you tell us?
yeah. So me still trying to build my advisory board and doing all of this. I am raising money. I raised about 9 million in the last 2 years for Dirty Dough just to, fund everything, which no
Right.
experience there. But I'm again cold contacting everybody. I'm a door-to-door guy. So I cold contact this guy on LinkedIn maybe 2 years ago to invest. Greg Majewski, he was the CEO of Jimmy John's. Jimmy John's
You
has been the
didn't know
most
him.
no cold message
You
from
reached
LinkedIn.
out to him on LinkedIn cold and asked him to invest.
Yes. And that, I mean, I raised several $1 million like that. Just kidding. Just- he
Love it.
told me no though, but he was
Yeah.
similar to the
Oh, yeah.
first story, Jeff. He gets on there and he's just like, this is what you're doing good. This is what's bad. This is what's bad. And I'm like, okay, who is this
Right.
guy? Again, he grew Jimmy John's from 30 locations to 300 as their CEO and 700 sold. That's been the number one food franchise in the world over the last
Yeah.
3 decades. So I'm like,
Right. Yeah.
he's
They, I
got
mean, they were
something.
massive.
So I'm like, okay, Greg, if you're not going to invest, but you have the balls to tell me that I'm an
Help
idiot,
me.
like right off the bat, like, can you be an advisor? So he came on in as an advisor. And then December of 2023, he came on as CEO. And then
Right.
September of 24, he purchased us completely. We did a stock
So,
swap with the parent company. So he owns a company that has like 16 food brands.
oh, okay. Very cool. So when these guys go from advisors to like, hey man, I want to be on the team, what does that do for your confidence?
Oh, huge. You know,
Dude, I mean, it's
you're
got to
just
be
like, yeah,
like,
I want
holy
to.
crap! Like this guy wants to, like, this guy was an advisor. I basically had to give him a part of my company just to like answer the phone here and there. And
Yeah.
now the guy wants to run the thing. Like, I've obviously got something here, right?
Yes, it was definitely a big relief. One, because of like, okay, cool, somebody else believes in it. Somebody,
Yeah.
you know, with good experience believes in it. And then it's also like, okay, well, I definitely recognize that I'm making this all up, right? I've never done it before. It should be apparent to anybody. If anybody hasn't done something, right, they're probably just making it up. So
Yeah.
can I stop making it up or make it up a little bit less so Greg can actually do what he's gonna do? And I'm like, and that was a big relief. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, sign over the keys to somebody who's opened up, 2,000 restaurants across a dozen brands over the last
Yeah. Why
3 decades.
not? Why not? So question, when you're creating this advisory board, right? You're giving them a percentage. How many total advisors would you say?
I had three to start off with, and then I brought on two more. All of them were
Okay, so we're not
between.
talking like 20 people giving away half your
Oh, no, no,
company.
no, no,
Yeah.
you're talking like 2 to 3% for 3 to 5 people, right? And I thought
Right.
it was absurd too. I was like, wait, you've done a $30 billion company, and you would come on Dirty Dough at a 1.5%
Right.
over 2 year vesting. We have
Right.
one store. We're not a franchise yet,
Right.
but it was this my sales ability, right? Okay, well,
Right.
but here's the potential.
It's your belief in it, right? It's your
Look at the
belief. Like, look, man,
competition.
I
Yeah,
know what we can grow this thing to. I am wholeheartedly in. I'm gonna make sure I do everything I can to make this the next, 100 million billion-dollar company.
yeah, and I think a lot of it does come back to what you just said on like, well, people just want to help anyway. Like when I
Yeah.
got into this, I've met
Especially people that
so many
make it to a
people.
certain level.
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm
like
like, why are
your
you
guy
getting on
that,
the phone with me? You
yeah,
guys
dude,
have
your
600
guy that's making
restaurants.
100 grand a year is all cocky and oh, I'm the shit. I got my Lambo out here, and he's making 250K a year and doesn't want to help anybody. Your guy that just sold his company for $3 billion, like, yeah, man, I'll help you out.
No joke, the founder of Panda Express came to our first grand opening that I told you about because
Dude,
he had
that's
a grand opening
insane.
across the street. He gave his cell phone number to me, and he will answer the phone or call. And I asked him to be an advisor, and he goes, "I don't accept shares, but I'm here to help you with whatever." This dude's worth $3 billion. Like when you said the
Right.
$3 billion, that kid, I'm like, this guy walked into a store. This is our second location, and hands out his cell phone number.
That's
You know what I mean?
insane. Yeah.
Um, and then a lot of people never respond, but go reach out
Yeah.
to 100 people that
But
own
yeah,
100
exactly. You reach
restaurants.
out to
A lot
100.
of
If you
them
get
do.
three killers, like,
Yeah.
who cares?
Yeah. So yeah, definitely like the advice actually going back to that first startup course that I was telling you about was tell any and everybody about your idea. The conception of like, I don't want to tell people my idea because they're going to
I
steal
think
it.
it's
It's like,
so stupid. I
no, no,
cannot
no.
stand that. I cannot
No.
stand that. Like, dude, like I remember when me and my wife first met, she's like, "You gotta stop telling people." I'm like, "No, everybody needs to know." Like, what do you
Yep.
mean? Like, if the world doesn't know what I'm doing, there's a problem.
I think that's the biggest like
Yeah,
superpowers. Like if everybody knows what you're doing, what you're trying to do, where you're going,
yeah,
what challenges you're facing, which that is probably the harder part because you're like, well, I don't want to tell everybody that I need $200,000 or else I'm going to
right.
go
But it makes you
bankrupt, right?
vulnerable. It makes you
But if I
human.
do, it comes together because I've been in that $200,000 or I'm going under,
Yeah,
a dozen times in the last 2 years.
yeah,
But because it was like, hey, all hands on deck, guys, this is the situation that we're in.
yeah.
Everybody pulls together and just figures it out with you.
But I think a lot of it is to do with, okay. So you're not letting pride get in the way. Number one. It's honesty and integrity, right? You're being honest
Mhm.
with, hey, this is where we're at, this is what I need help with, these are my, this is what I'm good at, this is what I'm not good at, right? Like it just goes to everything that a good parent teaches you when you're a kid, right? Like, do the right thing, be
Yeah,
honest, do unto others as you want done unto you. You know what I mean? It's like
yeah.
all those like normal things that we that we tend to forget. But dude, it's sometimes it's that simple, right?
I mean, for sure. Just get out there. If people know your problems, I think most people want to help you. But it's
Yeah,
like,
I
man, I
think
don't
I
want to
think
tell them I'm
yeah,
having an
people are
issue.
inherently good.
Because if I tell a potential investor I have an issue, then they're not going to want to invest. And it's like, well, no, 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 no. A
No.
potential investor, if you tell them there's not an issue, they know you're
Then
lying.
they got a problem. Right, exactly. The investor, you tell that, hey, everything's perfect. We're gonna be, we're $200 billion in about 6 months. What the hell do you need me for? You know what I mean? Like, people got to understand, dude. Like, I've had people like come to me, they're like, this, that, and the other. I'm like, bro, if you got no problems, why are we having a conversation?
Yeah, yeah. You're like, why do you need money? Just keep running your
Right,
business, dude. Go to the
right,
SBA. They'll give you 5 million.
right,
You know?
all day. Oh, it's so funny, man, dude. I love. So your first business was 5 years? No, 4 years ago. Well, I guess what is it? Yeah, five
Yeah,
years
5 years
ago.
ago from this month. Yeah.
That's impressive, dude. My business, Versa Business Systems. I've been in business for 7 years, but I'm 36. I started my first business when I was 7 years old. So I've been in business for 29 years.
What was the first business?
Cutting grass and snow
Okay.
plowing and
Is everything
yeah,
hustling?
exactly. Yep. So raking leaves in the fall. And then we eventually we had all the kids in the neighborhood working for us, and we're doing neighborhoods across town and
Yeah.
all that good stuff. But dude, like, at what point did you know it's time to exit? Like, from the solar company, but also the franchise. Like, is this your advisor saying, "Hey, like, now's a good time to get out," or like
Yeah.
how did you
Well,
decide that? Especially the solar thing. Was that more like, "Hey, the cookie thing's probably better to focus on"?
yeah,
Yeah.
there was about a 6 month overlap from when I bought the solar or bought the cookie company, and then I brought on a few partners. I ended up buying them all out shortly after. But I felt like I was like had two different marriages, right? I had a marriage with my brother in one business. And when I
Yeah.
worked on Dirty Dough, I kind of felt like I was cheating on that business because like
Right.
he's counting on me and that's his only business. And then
Yeah.
kind of same thing with
That's a
Dirty
big
Dough.
mistake I think a lot of people make in the early days is, because there's this notion out there like diversify. You
A
got to be
serial
involved in this,
entrepreneur.
that. Yeah, serial entrepreneur, have this business and that business. Then you do none of them great,
Yeah.
right? And you
Yeah.
get the feeling. You get that feeling that you're like, oh man, I'm cheating on this business to spend more time here.
Yeah.
So at
And
what point do you decide enough's enough? Like, I want to focus on this.
it was when somebody just gave us an offer. Somebody was texting me that I knew
No
from a
shit.
previous business, like, hey, I want to buy your company. And I'm like, this guy's just a bullshitter. I didn't even like message him back. And then he ran
Right.
into my brother at some other conference, and my brother's like, no, we got to talk to this guy. So we spoke with him, and we're like, I mean, it was a sales org, right? It was mainly 1099 contractors. Like, it was a good company. We did a few million in our first year in revenue.
Right. But in your
They
mind,
gave
you're
me-
like, dude, all my guys are
I would,
1099. If they stop selling, we don't make
yeah,
any money. Like, why is this worth something?
I never expected to sell. I didn't think people wanted to sell it.
Right.
That was just luck. That was just
Yeah.
luck. Nobody can sell a sales org in the solar industry today.
No,
And if I
not
would have waited
today.
another 6 months, I probably couldn't
Yes.
either. That was kind of luck,
Yes.
right?
100%. Oh, dude, a buddy of mine has a massive solar company. Massive. He's one of the only big ones that are still like rocking and probably
yeah,
going to be okay.
they're dropping like
Oh,
flies.
dude,
That's
there's
good.
nobody wants to finance the deals.
Yeah.
That's
It,
the main problem. It's the only problem, right?
it's a rough industry right now, but I
Yeah.
hit the timing. I got, I guess I got unlucky on starting it because it was like 3 months. Shit, we can't knock doors, and we're in California. Let's
Yeah.
pivot, but whatever. Got a good exit, and then it was kind of full time into Dirty Dough. So there's a guy that owns. I mean, speaking of like guys that have given me advice, Savory Fund. They own a bunch of restaurants. A few hundred restaurants. They've had 2 exits in the last 2 years, over 100 million.
Really?
And Andrew Smith is the manager of that, and so like I sat down with him when I had the offer. So, hey, John Richards, you're my senior advisor. Here's the offer, and he goes, let's go talk to Andrew because he's my buddy, right? Andrew
Right.
doesn't care. He knows nothing about, like, he's not in this industry, but he'll sit down. He sat down with me for over an hour, and I laid everything out. And he also, people in the food space are connected, so he knows Greg,
Right.
and he's like, take the deal. So it wasn't me just going to my advisors. It was me going to my advisors getting other people to look at it externally.
Yeah.
And like, this is the best deal.
Yeah.
This is the best for us right now, but more importantly, like, it's the best thing to do to take care of franchisees, right? This company is going to be able to support them more. They have deeper pockets than you do, Bennett. So take the deal. So I did.
Right. Dude, so you mentioned luck and being lucky and being unlucky. Do you really believe in luck and unluck, or do you think it's like just like divine? You know what I mean? Like, dude, I get in my head sometimes because I'm like, man, like if this didn't happen, like I wouldn't be here. Like, am I lucky, or is this God's plan, or is it? You know what I mean? Like,
I go back and forth because I look at
dude, it's tough.
I like the word luck better than blessing, just because.
Yes.
Like,
yeah.
I'm
like, man, dude, I had to do something for this. It didn't just land on my lap.
And that,
you know what I mean? For that guy to come find you, the guy to find you, and the guy to want to make an offer on your solar company, you had to put in a lot of work. You know what I mean? Even from just deciding to start the company and to partner with your brother, and all these things had to happen for that to happen. So, I don't think that's luck. Cool. Thank God this guy popped up, and
I just say luck. And this is the difference. I was in Africa last year drilling water wells.
Yeah, I was in Africa.
People there, in Kenya, and talking about, oh my God, I'm so blessed now that I'm seeing all of your poorness. And I'm just like, okay, so who's blessing you? God. And why is it? You're implying that they're not being blessed in Kenya, right? But if you look at like suicide rates, we're not blessed. But anyways, I'm just like, keep the blessing around. It's just life experience.
Yeah.
And if it's unluck or luck, it just depends on what lens you're looking for, right? So
yeah, exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah, I talked about that today. I talked about a few, like people always say like glass half full, half empty. I talked about fuel today, right? You can think about fuel like the fuel, like fueling my fire. Like I got this thing inside of me. It's just got to burn and run, and I'm burning up, right? Or you think of fuel like like the Eminem song, and I got a can full of gas and a handful of matches. You know what I mean? Like I'm gonna burn something down, right? It's either a positive or a negative thing. And dude, I love that about your story is that you just did, right? Like you had this idea and you just did, and then you got some great information and you're like, okay, yeah, let's try that. And then you did, and then you did, and then you took advantage of what's around you, and you're like, okay, well, I need somebody that does this. Well, let's just, reach out to a few people, and somebody's bound to say yes, and they did. Like, it's
It
all
really does
action.
come down to that. It just,
It's
I
all
guess the difference
action.
between luck and unluck is how much
Yeah,
action you take,
it's
right?
how much action you take, right? It's the biggest difference.
Anybody in business will definitely know that. That's what got me through, was like, I needed to learn that FedEx almost went under, but he flew to Vegas and he
Dude,
gambled his
I
last
saw that.
$5,000 or else he would have gone under. And
Yeah,
Walmart had to
I see that at least
fly
once a
out
week.
to, what was that?
I see that at least once a week. The story about
Yeah.
FedEx and the guy went to Vegas with his last $5,000 and saved the company.
So I did that through a podcast called Business Wars. Very entertaining, like 5 episodes per series, but it's like voice actors. So like you're getting into the story as they're yelling at
Right.
each other. Walmart versus Target, and learning the story, and like, oh, Walmart almost went out of business. Oh, and same with Costco and Nike. How many times did they almost go to? And
Yeah.
it's like, oh, they just kept going.
They
And
just
that
kept
for me
going. They
was like,
wouldn't give up.
yep, just keep going. Pivot, go, pivot, go, pivot, go.
100%, man.
And eventually it turns into something if you just keep pushing hard enough.
Yeah. Dude, how many times did you have your head in your hand? You're like, I don't know how we're going to survive till tomorrow. Be honest.
I
Can you
mean, when I
count?
told you,
Can
no,
you count that high?
first 6 months of last year, I was just in like paralysis of like, am I
Yes,
going?
bro.
Because I handed over the keys to somebody else, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, like nothing was,
You're like,
he
did I
was
did I
fixing all these
mess
things.
up? Did I make a mistake? Like, well,
The
what am I
first
gonna
thing
do?
that this guy does, he comes in and he says, unless it's payroll, rent, and utilities, we're not making payments until I get a full grasp around things. Because we were
I
also
love that.
a food manufacturing company doing $1 million a month in just cookie production, right? And then
Oh,
we were a
wow.
franchise company. Then we had a dozen or so corporate stores. So there was a
Right.
lot. And he came in and he's just like, turn everything off. So everybody's
Right.
trying to sue me. Now that's all over. We paid everybody, but like I was getting
I
lawsuits
love
like
that.
freaking every second
I've
for
been
months.
there. Oh, dude, I've been there,
Like,
man. Like
I
I've been doing
promise we'll
this
pay you
7 years now,
sometime.
man. So I had that. I've had that. That was a fun time. Really fun. And then I didn't give up from that. And then we got here.
Yep.
Dude, it's crazy, man. It's the biggest. They're like, dude, why would you go into business? 99% of businesses fail. That's because they're pussies and they give up. Right? Like
Yeah,
that's literally what it
they
comes
just didn't
down
go hard
to.
enough.
Like
Yeah.
it's crazy, man. Like business has been done for how long? Like it's hard to come up with a brand new idea, right? Like solar company. I mean, like people have done it and been very successful at it. What happened between those that failed and those that didn't? They didn't give up,
Yeah.
right? Like
And then there's a
it's
little,
crazy.
little bit of timing on there as well. But
Yeah, for
again,
sure. Always
if you get
timing, right?
timing
Like the
bad, you just
economy
stay
plays
in
a
it.
big part. Yeah,
Yeah, you just stay in it a little bit longer, if needed. But
yeah,
it's
yeah.
a
a
wild
hundred
ride.
percent, man. Like I mean, at the end of the day, do you know of any other solar companies that started right before COVID? I don't.
I mean, yeah, no, not off the top of my head.
I'd
Yeah,
love to
3
know.
months before COVID, door-to-door companies. Yeah, I don't
Right.
know.
Oh, dude, that's great. So you were actually having people still sell door to door during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, we had to take a little break from that, and we
Right.
pivoted to online ads, which same thing. You dump a few $100,000 in
Yeah.
before you see any results, and you're just
Yeah.
holding your breath. Like, did I
Oh,
just lose all my
dude.
money?
Yeah. Yep. Been there. Oh my God, I've lost so much money on different marketing, avenues that like worked really well for somebody and then went horribly wrong for me. But like you said, it's a timing thing, right? Like, dude, Facebook ads were great 2 years ago.
Hmm.
Right? Right now, I would not spend a dime on Facebook. I think it's idiotic. Right? Like ever since they
Yeah,
got sued
especially
for stealing people's data, they're not getting the data anymore. So your targeting is BS. You know
yep,
what I mean?
yep.
Like, oh man, otherwise Steve or what's his Zuckerberg would be in prison. Right? Like, let's be
I mean,
honest.
I literally just saw something on like a satire news thing, and it was like, the man who says that he promises that they weren't stealing your information now says that they'll stop selling your information.
Yeah. Yeah. I do. I
Okay, cool.
love that. I love that, man. Dude, it's been great talking to you, Bennett. I want to have you back on like next week, dude. Like I would love to talk about this forever and ever with you. Unfortunately, I'm what's the guy that does the 3-hour podcast? Joe Rogan. Yeah, I'm not Joe Rogan, so like people won't listen to me that long. The number one podcaster in the world, that guy.
Just that guy. Yeah,
Yeah, that guy, but dude, it's been great talking to you, man. I can't wait to have you back on again in the future. What's next for you, man?
I'm the director of franchise sales for Craveworthy. So I love the sales role. So now I'm selling franchises for 7 food brands under the Craveworthy umbrella.
Great. So you're helping companies sell their franchises to people looking to open franchises.
So yeah, the company that bought mine has placed me ahead of their 7 brands that are food franchises. And then I'm starting to do a few other things on the side because, you know, one, you're an entrepreneur, and 2, you typically have ADHD and you're excited about everything. And you have an next, and everybody calls you like, "What's next?" And you're like,
"Yeah, man,
everything's next, man.
Yeah,
I'm gonna do it all.
I'm doing it all." Oh, dude, anyway. Absolutely, man. Dude, well, you got a lot, you got a long road ahead of you, man. I can't wait to see what you do over the next 20, 30 years, man. That's the thing about us, dude. We're young. Like the possibilities are endless. And like the times right now, like with AI and technology and like this new government starting up here soon, like, dude, like times are crazy, man. Times are crazy and they're exciting. They're very exciting.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah. It's AI is going to get super interesting. I'm liking it.
Yeah, man. Dude, I saw this taxi the other day that like was taking people around Vegas at the tech show. Dude, it's nuts. It's nuts.
No driver. Yeah.
Nah.
I have the full self-driving on my Tesla.
Yeah.
And
I've got it on my GT63. I love it.
I'm telling you, probably 98% of the time, I don't touch the steering wheel. Like it's city streets, U-turns, everything.
Oh,
like,
Tesla, you don't have to. So like with my GT63, I think it's like once every 90 seconds, I've got to like nudge the steering wheel.
So that's how it used to be with Tesla.
So Tesla's changed from that?
They have a camera above the rear view, and it's looking at you. As long as I'm looking forward, it doesn't care. So I have a phone. I have my phone holder right here. I could watch Netflix on my way to Disneyland last month and get through all of How I Met Your Mother almost.
Yeah, man.
While I'm driving. And I'm like, this is incredible. Yeah.
That's sick.
It's good.
You can get those glasses that like have like a picture of your eyes on it and go to sleep. I wouldn't recommend that if anybody's listening. Yeah. But dude, I appreciate you hopping on, man. Super inspiring story, man. I'm super, I'm motivated, man. I'm inspired, bro. Like the man, it's a great story, dude. Like, man, I'm going to go get some advisors, bro. Like seriously, it's, I don't know why more people don't operate that way. 'Cause you're right. Like people will help. Like you're just, you're not asking the right people, or you're not around the right people, or whatever it may be. But we got this whole thing on the internet, right? Instagram, LinkedIn, whatever. Reach out.
Yes. Learn about advisors, go to YouTube, and then it's like kind of the key to the business. You're like, wait, I give up 1% of my business, and then I get all-stars that then I use their name and reputation to leverage my business off of. It's like, well, that was worth 1%.
Oh, it's a no-brainer. Absolute no-brainer, man. Very cool, bro. I appreciate you hopping on, bro. We'll talk soon.
Thank you.